All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Let me just double check that we are live here. I think we are. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. And, I guess welcome to the first live stream that I have ever done. Now, this is, if it's a little clunky, then I apologize, but I'm still getting to grips with a couple of the software bits and bats that we've got trying to run this. Now, if you've just joined us, maybe you're already a member of my channel, but my name is David. I am a realtor here in Sarasota, Florida, and the purpose of this stream really is going to be the first of what I hope to be many streams, really, where I talk about, the lifestyle here in Sarasota, what's going on, what local news is happening, what is getting people's boats floating, really, when it comes to local news here in Sarasota. And look, my experience is really that I am fairly new to Sarasota, right? I've been here for 4 years. I'm still very much considered a transplant compared to a lot of folk out there. But as I say, this is the first live stream. And in this particular video, what I want to do is, I'm going to put the title of the video just under there. Are people still moving to Sarasota in 2026? Now, if you live in Sarasota, if you're considering vacationing in Sarasota, maybe you're considering a permanent or a temporary move here, then this video could well be valuable to you. If you have no desire to be in Sarasota, have nothing to do with Sarasota or Florida, then maybe this is probably one that you want to skip. But this is what we're going to dive into. And the reason I pulled this particular topic out is because there is a local newspaper here called the Sarasota Herald Tribune, and they have basically released some new data that surprised me a little bit, to be honest with you, given where I thought the demographics were heading in the short to medium term here in Sarasota and Florida, I suppose, in general, really, when we consider the craziness of 2021, 2022, when everybody was climbing over themselves to get down here and buy a house and rent a house and all that sort of stuff, really. But because this is, after all is said and done, a real estate channel, I'm a realtor, that's my kind of framing of all this. What's happening with migration data is obviously going to be very important to whether you're looking to buy a house here, right? What's happening with prices? Are they going up? Are they going down? How is that demand cycle fueling the local housing market? For sellers as well, they need to know, what's happening. Are more buyers coming in? Where's the pendulum going in terms of that market activity? Investors as well, whether you're a mom and pop, small landlord, or maybe you are looking to JV on a multi-million pound multi-family residential complex. Well, all of that is going to be driven fundamentally by supply and demand, and that supply side, well, the demand side at least, is obviously going to be driven very heavily by how many people are moving in and out of a certain geographical location, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we'll look at some of the data that is put in the article. We will compare it to what I've personally been seeing in my business, in terms of the phone calls and the conversations that I'm having with people day to day. Maybe I don't know them, the leads that I'm getting in as well, just to see if that kind of correlates from a on the ground sort of standpoint, and discuss, what that is going to mean for the local housing market here. As we know, housing markets are, they're built of hundreds and thousands of mini micro markets. So there isn't just one big homogenous housing market. Every geographical location has its own, pros and cons, pull factors, push factors that affect its pricing, its inventory, its turnover, etc. So that's what we're going to look at today. And look, if you have just joined the channel, if you're in the chat, I'd love to know where you are watching from as well. Are you based in Sarasota right now? Are you thinking of maybe making a move here in the future? Are you overseas? I actually have, I think, quite a few people who are based back in the UK, which, as you can tell from my accent, is where I hail from. I'm a Yorkshireman, a proud Yorkshireman. But yeah, I'd love to know where you guys are watching from, and whether or not you'd even considered a move to Sarasota before. once we've done that, we'll kind of run through, my thoughts, my assumptions of where I see the market heading, because of this data that's going out there. But look, as I say, this is the first stream, so at the risk of waffling on, we're just going to kind of jump into the article here, which you can see. As I say, it's the Sarasota Herald Tribune, as this come from. Now, this is the sort of principal local newspaper, right, that everybody comes on. It's updated every day. It's not an aggregator site. These guys have their own journalists on the ground, doing this sort of work. So, yeah, looking at what the Sarasota Herald Tribune is saying and comparing that to where, I see things on the market, it's going to be quite interesting. It certainly was interesting for me anyway, when I found this out. So as you can see here, are people still moving to Sarasota? That's the key question of this video. It's a simple question, and how do you measure that growth, right? Is it through population alone? Is it through the amount of home sales? What's the amount of dollar volume that's been sold? Is that going up? Is that coming down? Is it to do with home prices as well? We've recently seen quite a high vacancy rate when it comes to apartment buildings, for rental. I think that's not just a Sarasota thing. That's a statewide thing. I think the vacancy rate on multifamily last time I checked was about 20%, and so that is a big factor for multifamily investors and developers, right? Having 20% of your units unoccupied, non-income producing, is not going to be good when you're running those appraisals for any future dated developments, and also making sure that you're giving your investors the targeted returns that you said you'd give them many years ago. So who knows? But yeah, so this particular article is actually focused on driver's licenses. So driver's licenses, and if you think about driver's licenses, why is this a good metric to base, what's happening with migration? Well, if you're coming down to visit, say, like many snowbirds do here in Florida, you might be staying for 2-3 months, all right? You're not going to have to register your driving license with Florida State if you're from New York or South Carolina or wherever you may hail from, because you're essentially just coming down here for a big, long vacation, right? But obviously, if you're coming down here to make Florida your permanent residence, then you have to register your driving license with the DMV, with the state. And once you've done that, that's a really almost real-time metric of where data is coming from, where the migration data is coming from. Now, again, obviously, if people don't drive, we're not going to capture that information. But unless you really wait for the census information to come out, which I believe is once every 10 years, is it? Then this is probably the next best thing when we're trying to understand patterns, understand trends, and plan for where the market might be heading, in the short to medium term future. But anyway, so we'll dive in here. As you can see here, more than 6,500 people transferred driver's licenses from other states to Sarasota County. That's not into just Florida, that's to Sarasota County, where we are, in the first half of 2026. Now, that's a lot of people moving into the city, to the county for the first time. It ranked 11th statewide for incoming residents. So clearly there is a pull factor for a lot of these people coming to Sarasota. And if you've ever been to Sarasota, it's a beautiful place. I love it. I've been here for 4 years. As I say, I'm still a very recent transplant. Certainly don't consider myself a citizen here yet. I don't think anyone else would either, but I'm very much loving my time here to date, and long may it continue. But yeah, between Sarasota and Manatee, they attracted over 12,500 newcomers within the first 6 months of 2026. Okay, so that's a lot of people that are moving to the area when you may have thought that actually people are moving away from Florida because of higher costs, higher property tax, higher insurances, issues with hurricanes, getting that home insurance. But there's still a lot of people that are coming permanently, from this data that we're showing. And if you just take a look around, like Sarasota and Manatee as well, you look at places that are just getting built up. Lakewood Ranch, Wellham Park, Sky Ranch, all these places are just booming. They are just getting further, and more communities are being built, along, east of I-75 and further down south as well. So yeah, it seems very clear that Sarasota is booming. Sarasota County is booming for sure based on this. Now, the next question this article asks is, where are they coming from? Now, if you have lived in Sarasota, if you live in Florida, you will know that the standard of driving, and I'm saying this from my personal point of view, is some of the worst I have ever experienced in my 40 years on this earth. And yeah, it is appalling. I mean, if you think about it, you've got people that are approaching that stage of life that shouldn't really be driving, that are still driving. You've got kids that are driving that shouldn't really be driving. You've got tourists that are coming that maybe from my neck of the woods that are used to driving on the left-hand side of the road. Now they've got to suddenly drive on the right. They don't know where they're going, what they're doing. So you kind of throw all this together, and it is, a terrible quality of driving, that's for sure. But anyway, I'm sort of waffling on here. As I say, this is the first stream that I've done. So any feedback, positive or negative, that you can think to give me would be very much appreciated, including even the topic of the video as well. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe this is an incredibly boring topic to be doing it on, and I'm just a nerd for picking this out as my first video to run a stream on. But anyway, so where are the Florida newcomers coming from? And if we scroll down, we can see here, this is the top, which states have the most people moving to Florida. And if you're a Floridian, you might not like that top one, New York. There seems to be a lot of negativity towards some of the New Yorkers that are down here, and judging from a personal experience, it's mainly due to the standard of driving. There's that. Georgia as well, New Jersey, California, Texas. So they are the big pull states. Now, why would people be looking to move from those states into Florida? Well, who knows? Let's look at the taxation side of things, for example. It's, even though property tax is higher down here than it has been, it was 10 years ago, there's no state income tax, right? So people who are on fixed incomes, retirees, they might be wanting to be able to budget a little bit more affordably. So you leave places like California, leave places like New York and New Jersey, and you can get a lot more bang for your buck down here, that's for sure. But that isn't a new trend, all right? That's why people have moved down here to Florida for many, many years, that's for sure. Then keep going down. So this shows the counties that have experienced the top 25 counties where people are moving to Florida from. Sarasota, as you can see here, ranks number 11, right bang smack in the middle of the table with 6,686 new driver's licenses being registered. So clearly, this article, and we can keep sort of going down, they talk about their COVID boom years, and obviously we're not quite at those levels at all. There were people that moved here that shortly moved away from here. But yeah, I mean, the reality is people are certainly still looking to move here. Now, I don't know if you guys in the chat, are you seeing more people move here? Do you feel the traffic on the roads a lot worse than it was, previously? If you were here during the COVID era, obviously we're in the summer now, so we're not in the peak of the season. But I mean, I still think the roads are pretty busy down here, and I think that is down to more full-time residents as opposed to more snowbirds coming just at peak times of the season, really. But look, I think we're going to sort of wrap that up on as a stream for now. It's my first stream, so I have not actually done this before. So yeah, we're going to wrap it up there, and I appreciate if you've joined the stream. And yeah, hopefully this wasn't too much of a boring topic for you. All right, guys, thanks a lot. See you in the next one.